Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. First, thanks for coming to my channel. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, that helps out a lot. I also love it if you leave a comment or a suggestion in the comment box below. The one I want to do today is going to have some movement to it because it's going to have a part of it that spins. It's going to have 3 different stones. It should be an interesting kind of fun spinny pendant. We'll see how it turns out. I'll show you what I'm going to do in a minute. And before we get started, though, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. You guys are awesome. I think we're approaching 5,000, 6,700. I can't keep track anymore. It's getting up there for me. It's amazing, and I really appreciate all of your support and your kind words. And I also appreciate the financial contributions. That helps out with supplies and keeping me fed and things like that. My other group of people I like to thank is my Patreon people. There's a growing group over there. It's become a very nice community. I really enjoy the conversations I'm having with them over there, and we're sharing all sorts of resources and ideas, and it's kind of fun. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to all of the interactions we have. With those important thanks out of the way, let's get started on this project. Okay, let's see what I drew up. This is one of my design books you can get on my merch store if you're interested. It's a good way to support the channel. I like these because ever since I started getting serious about this, I started sketching my designs in advance just to kind of solidify my ideas in my mind. What I like about these is that they got this nice little grid pattern on it, which isn't as distracting as regular graph paper, but it allows me to kind of keep things sort of proportional. So I was going a bunch of different directions with this. Probably the 2 favorite designs that we discussed, my wife and I, for this one, were this one here and this one here. And I think I like them both. I think this one may be a little harder to get kind of the shape of thing that I want, but sometime I want to try to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. And what it's going to be is basically a framework made out of flattened square wire up here, and with a little bail segment. And then it's going to have a prism shaped piece like this right here with a stone on each side that spins on this spindle here. And I have ideas about how I'm going to put all this together, but I haven't really solidified them in my mind. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here since this is new. This is probably going to stick out just a tiny bit below this wire here. I think I'm going to use 12 gauge square and flatten it just slightly so it has a little bit narrower profile. And then I'm going to solder 2 pieces of it side by side, so it's relatively thick and just a little bit wide to give it kind of a thicker profile from the side. This is going to be made out of 22 gauge sheet, I think, with 18 gauge sheet on the ends to give it some sturdiness. Probably use 3/16 inch fine silver bezel strip for the bezels for these, and I think I'm going to use 28 gauge thinner stuff just to reduce the weight, because this is going to be kind of a hefty pendant. Picked out 3 different similarly sized stones. They're not all exactly the same, but they're close. I think they're kind of in the 14, I'm guessing by 10 by 14-ish. So I got a Lapis, Turquoise, and then a Black Onyx. So played with a lot of different stones and a lot of different shapes and things, and then we went with kind of a mid-size cabochon. That we could find 3 different ones that were similarly sized. So first we'll make some bezels for those, I think. Here we go. Okay, probably just do one of these in front of you, since I'm going to do the same basic thing for each of them. File the end flat. This is taller bezel than I really probably need, but I will file it down to the size that I want it to be when I'm to that stage. If you've never visited my channel before, when I solder I use hard silver sheet solder and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. My torch is a Smith acetylene air torch. I think they brand it now the Silversmith torch or something like that. It used to be called the Smith Handy Heat, I believe. Oopsie. We got pretty good on the sides. Alright, so I'm going to do that for the other two. Okay, so I measured this. It came out to be about 20 millimeters that way and about 16 this way, I think. And so I cut 3 pieces of 18 gauge, or not 18 gauge, 22 gauge sterling sheet to those dimensions. And then I took the file and I just filed them at what I was guessing was about the right angle, and I'm pretty close, I think. If you have one of these miter vise jigs, the higher end model than I have, I just have the 45-degree angle and the 90-degree angle in it. But they also make them where they have a 60-30, and that would be handy for something like this if you needed to get it. I was just kind of estimating, so see how close I did. But in order to find out how it was going to look, I used a little bit of masking tape to kind of put it together like that. Now I'm going to push it into this pad a little bit. I'm going to get a text message from upstairs from my wife in a minute saying, "Did you burn something?" You may notice that I use pick soldering a lot. It's a super good way to precisely place some solder where you want it to go. I want to make sure I get flow all the way down the length of this thing. So I'm adding a little more solder. Pick soldering took me to a higher level of ability, I think, because it allows you to put solder where you want it without too much trouble. Takes a little practice, but once you master it, it improves your silversmithing game. Alright. Make sure that's hot and everything flows well. It's not too shabby. Alright. It's pretty close. So the trick, I think, is going to be to get the hole right in the center of these. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm thinking it might be easiest to cut a couple of discs to the right size. That's pretty close. Just like that one. So maybe 2 pieces of silver like that. And I'll make a square based off of that circle so I can find the center of it. Started using this little awl as a center punch because it's easier to get a real precise little spot picked out and get an actual decent hole right there. So let's do this now. I'm going to I got the center point pretty good. I'm going to drill a little hole in there. And I'm probably going to use something about the size of 14 gauge wire. So I'll find a drill bit that's about that size. I may use a starter bit to get it though. Welcome to my messy bench pin area. I'm just going to cut out this circle. I think rather than cutting out with shears, since I have them taped together, I'll probably have a better result if I do it this way. I filed those a little bit so they're relatively symmetrical. The hole is pretty much straight across. I don't know if it's exactly in the center, but it's close. I'm thinking, let's see if we can solder this on. I really kind of want to see if I can get that as centered as I can. So I wanted it to be circular because I can get each corner kind of pretty close to the edge and sort of eyeball it and get it pretty close. My little equilateral triangle is not perfectly equilateral. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and try and solder that down. We'll see what happens. You might have asked why I didn't solder these together first and then drill a hole, because it might be easier to find the exact center. And the reason is because it's a little sketchy soldering closed bodies without any holes in them, and so I thought it would be a little bit safer in order to have holes on both sides before we assemble them. Most of the heat's going to have to be pumped into the bottom here because it's going to be harder to get up the temperature than this triangle sitting on top. Seems to me I might get it a little bit straighter up and down if I run a piece of wire up through it. This is called a magnesia block, if I didn't mention that earlier. It is a softer surface that you can poke things into. Looks like that did okay. Okay, I'm going to cut these ones off too. Okay, I'm just going to file this for a minute. My camera keeps going off on the side, so I'm going to show you what I did. I made a little box and soldered it around here. I made the box first. It's got a slight taper outwards like that, which was unintentional, but I kind of like, so I'm going to leave it there. So I got this all soldered together. My next step is going to be filing these bezels down shorter and then adding my little spindle thing in here. And then I think we can let it pickle both pieces, and I'll probably polish them separate, set the stones, and then put it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, if I can find that piece, I have this thick, which is either 10 or 12 gauge round wire. I'm going to solder a piece in there, cut it off however long that is, so it's butted up against the side like a little washer kind of. And then I'm going to solder a piece of 14 gauge between the two ends of this, and we'll leave some of that on there that'll fit right into those holes. And we should be able to spin it, but I apologize for that. This darn, my phone keeps not recording when I hit record for some reason, so I will try to do better. I've put this piece of, I think it's 12 or 10 gauge round, I'm not sure which, I don't remember. But it's going to be kind of a spacer between the edge of this spinny part and the little framework that goes around it. And then what I'll have is I'll have a piece of 14 gauge sticking off of that that'll fit into the little round parts here. And we'll see how that works. But to start with, I've got it kind of pushed down, and I filed these down so that they'll have room to rotate. And let's just solder this in and see how it goes. It's kind of a fun experiment doing one like this. Thought about doing one like this for a long time, but I just never tried. Okay, so now I can see about how far in they need to go. And I can make a little scratch there. I need to file those ends flat. About right. Okay, now I have a piece of 14 gauge here. I want to center this right between those two and get it soldered in. don't really want it to be able to drop any, so let's put a piece of, that's too thick. That should prevent it from going anywhere. Alright, let's solder that on there. Something shifted slightly. You never like to see something move like that, but I think it's okay. Okay, so really what the idea is there, I'll probably Dremel this down so it's got a nice flat edge there, but cut these off and leave some sticking inwards. Basically, be popping it in there. It's still a little tight. Okay, I'm going to clean this up and pickle it, and then we'll get to work on the setting the stones and everything else. So. I set 2 of these stones already after I polished it. And I put a little bit of tag board underneath this one to get it to just the right height, and we'll go ahead and set him. And I do this differently than a lot of people do. I use my needle nose pliers or chain nose pliers. I start with the flat side there, and I just kind of push it straight in. Make sure there's no spaces anywhere. Once you do that, then I'm going to use the rounded smooth part outside here to do what's called burnishing. Just pushing that top edge down tight against the stone and smoothing it out. Alright, so that's what you do with that. And this, I'm going to spread these open a little bit. The trick is getting them back into where they're pushing tightly together and are straight and everything. If I grab it up here, I should be able to manipulate it to where it's snug. And we got kind of a, I think I like that. It's novel. So, being my first one, it's not flawless, but in general, I like the overall idea, and I think I'm pleased. So I'll do a little final polishing up of that and get some better pictures, and we'll call it a day. All right, well, that was the 3-stone kind of spinny pendant. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. That really helps a lot. I also would love it if you'd leave a comment or a suggestion, constructive criticism. All that stuff is really nice and helps me out. Before you leave, though, you should check out a couple of things. One, you should check out my playlist page, because a lot of my content is organized into different playlists, which may make it convenient for you to find the thing you're looking for. And also just peruse some of my videos. I have a lot of content for different levels here, and I think it's a channel that's worth subscribing to, so maybe you'd consider giving me a subscribe. And feel free to share it with others as well. If you're interested in a more personalized experience, you can check out my Patreon. There's links to that in my video description down below, as well as some links to some other relevant places like my merch store, where you can get one of that nice design book that I showed you, or a coffee mug, or a t-shirt, or a number of other different things. You can also visit my website, and there's a link to buy me a coffee if you just want to help support the channel by making a financial contribution. Even though it's called Buy Me a Coffee, I just get money. I don't actually get coffee. But thanks for that in advance if you choose to do that. Thanks for visiting. Happy silversmithing. Take care.